Hello, fellow netizens. Today is the 8th of April, 2012, coming to you by way of the internet from Ellensburg, Washington. My question to you today is, what is freedom? And do you have freedom in America? Do you, as an individual, have freedom in America as an American citizen? Now, before you answer that question, let me shed some light on the issue for you. Everybody knows, on my Facebook account that I am starting I have intended to start an aquaculture. And an aquaculture is a sustainable closed system where you grow plants in water, like lettuce and spinach and green vegetables and even like strawberries and stuff like that. And what you do is you got one tub that's full of water. Well, both tubs are actually full of water, but one tub is intended to have fish in it. Okay, and you raise fish, and the fish produce waste material as fertilizer, and it's incorporated into the water. You get high nitrate levels and whatnot in your water. And so then you transport that water into another tub that has your plants embedded in the lid above, and the roots hang down into the water. And so they take up the water with the nitrates, the nitrogen and the other nutrients they need, and they grow. You don't use any soil at all. And then after the plants have pulled all of the nitrates out of the water and the water's clean again, it goes back into the fish tank, because the fish will die if the nitrate level gets too high. And so there's a balance there. There's a cycle. And so that's what we call an aquaculture. And you're growing both fish and vegetables for food. Okay, so my first hurdle, I ran into it today. I went out to a website to buy some tilapia. That's the fish that we buy in our store. It's been popularized here in the last, 5 years or so. And so, 10 years ago, you never even heard of it. It wasn't in our stores, but it is now. So anyway, I did some research on tilapia too, because I'm an ecologist. I want to know, all of the stuff about growing tilapia as part of my aquaculture. So I found out that they were originally an aquarium fish for the pet aquarium hobby. They're a cichlid. You can buy all kinds of cichlids, from Oscars to Jack Dempsey's to all of these different kinds of fish that you can keep in your aquarium at home. And tilapia were one of those fish originally. They were called blue tilapia. Now there's about 6 species now and they're all there's some from one or two from Africa, and the rest are from South America. But anyway, I went to go buy some, and lo and behold, I find out that tilapia is illegal in Washington State unless you have a permit. You have to have a permit. Are you free in America? I'm going to ask you again. I'm going to ask you several times. The permit costs $100. So if I want to grow 40 fish, because they grow up to each fish will provide about 1 pound to 2 pounds of fillets for your table, for food. And if I want to grow 40 fish a year, I have to go get a permit, and the permit costs me $100. That's $2.50 a pound for the fillets. That's what it equates to. I can buy tilapia at the store for cheaper than that. And so it's not beneficial to me to grow my own tilapia because of this permit. Okay? Why do we have to have a permit? Now we're going to get into the the meat of the matter. Why do we have to have a permit? We're talking about freedom here. Why are we required to have a permit? It's kind of like a tax on tea during Boston Tea Party. Why this? We struck back against England because they wanted to tax our tea. Well, essentially, that's what they're doing to our tilapia. They're taxing our tilapia. They're making it uh, unavailable to us to grow our own. So we have to buy it. We have to make somebody else rich in order to eat, which is completely unethical. It's the corporate executives. They've lobbied. Well, let me talk to you as an ecologist first, because I've looked into the ecology of the tilapia. They are not an invasive species in Washington state. They die when the water temperature gets to 50 degrees in temperature. Okay? And even on the west side of Washington state, our waters fall below 50 degrees down to about 40 and even 30s. Go to any of the rivers over there, put a thermometer in it, especially in winter. You'll find out that the water's around 35 degrees, maybe 40. The tilapia can't survive that. Nor the same is true of our lakes. Go take the temperature of any lake in any place in Washington state during the winter, and you'll find out that the temperatures in the winter drop far below the survival range of tilapia. And so tilapia cannot survive the many years they need to grow, to maturity, where they can reproduce and become an invasive species. That can't happen in Washington state because the water's too cold. Now, we can grow tilapia within a year if you keep the water heated. Okay, you got to keep the water temperature above 70 and preferably above 80 degrees. And then the fish will grow faster, and within 1 year, you can harvest them. But in the wild, even in their native homelands, it takes at least 2 years for the fish to mature. And in their native homelands, they don't have winters. South America and Africa, they don't get cold winters. And that's why it's not an invasive species here, because the fish won't survive here. Okay, and then we'll talk a minute about disease. Maybe some of you are saying, oh, well, it's disease they're worried about. People have bought hundreds and thousands and millions of aquarium fish from all across this world. There's hundreds of species available through our pet industry from all over the place. Why is tilapia singled out? And as far as disease, everybody flushes these down the toilet. When they go to our waste treatment plants, and we have to, communities are required to have a waste treatment plant. There is some people living out in the country, they've got their own water treatment. It's an underground tank, and there's some biodegradable things going on there. But all of that kills the pathogens, and they don't survive it, particularly in our cities. When you flush a fish down the toilet, it goes down to the waste treatment plant. It gets broken up into little pieces. They got these great big machines that break everything up, and then it's chemically treated to kill pathogens, and then it's put into these big vats where bacteria will break it down even more, and then when it's all through, it goes through a ultraviolet filter. The water is sent through these ultraviolet tubes that generate high intense ultraviolet light, and it kills all of the remaining pathogens. And then of course your effluent is released into our rivers or whatever, and passed on down the line. And so there's no threat from disease from tilapia, people. There's no threat from invasive species, from them becoming an invasive species. So why is it illegal to grow them? Why do we have to have this permit? And I'll tell you why. because it was lobbied by the corporate executives that sell food through our grocery stores. They paid off executive state officials and federal officials to make it illegal for you to grow your own food. And they don't do it directly. What they do is they say you got to get this permit to transport the fish. In other words, you can't transport them to your home unless you got this permit. Or if you bought them from the grocery store dead, then it's okay. Okay? So you can't go down to your neighbor who might have some aquarium fish from 20 years ago or 10 years ago, and one of them is a tilapia. He's been breeding them over the years. And you want to carry it the one block up to your house, you got to have a transport permit to do that. You got to pay $100. And if you try to grow these things in your yard, and the meter reader or the people that come around your home to the satellites now that look down on our properties to see if we're evading the legalities they have. They have satellites that actually visually watch your properties to see if you build a little shed and you haven't paid your fee to have a shed built on your property, or if you got some 50-gallon tubs out in your backyard and you're growing fish in them. They can see that from the satellites, and they will send somebody out to your house and come into your yards unannounced. They have the right to walk around your backyard. And if they find tilapia, they will give you a ticket. And if you repeat the violation, you will go to jail. And it's all to protect the corporate elite in America. You are not free in America. That's my point. You think you are, but it's like a bad marriage. You don't really understand. From buying raw milk to buying meat that doesn't have to go through a USDA inspected plant. If you want to buy your own chicken or your own rabbits from your neighbor, it's illegal in America. You are not free. Peace on earth, goodwill towards men.